But when you were 18, you wanted to kill Israelis when you saw all the violence around you. And you bought weapons and you were arrested for that. And you were tortured in prison. How did you feel about the Israelis when that happened?
For any Palestinian, I say that I used to hate the Jews, and Muslim Palestinians hate the Jews for two reasons. The first reason is ideological reason, that the God of Islam doesn't like Jews. The second reason, that they view Israel as an occupation force, and Israel is occupying the Palestinian territories. And it used aggression, assassinations, killing many times. And I don't justify the Israeli aggression no matter what, while I understand the right of Israel to live. But for this aggression and for this ideological problem, Palestinians in general want to fight Israel. So some of them think this is how we defend ourselves. Some of them want to take revenge from Israel for the hate that was produced because of this environment. I was one of those victims, and I thought the way to gain our freedom would be by killing Jews. So I wanted to kill Jews. Later on, as you said, I was tortured. I never killed a Jew. I never used the weapons. They didn't work, and I was arrested before they were used, and I was tortured in prison under the Israeli authority.
And then the Shin Bet, the security organization in Israel, invited you, asked you, what happened? They wanted you to be an informer, and you wanted to use that to infiltrate them so you could kill them. Is that what you were thinking at the time?
Yes, at that time, after I was tortured, in fact, while I was under the torture, the Israeli Shin Bet, Israeli intelligence, asked me to work for them. I was asking, are those guys idiots, or what's their problem? They're torturing me, they're arresting my father, they're killing my people, and they're asking me now to work for them. I thought that would be a great opportunity at that time to infiltrate the Shin Bet and fool them and kill them from inside. So I was 18 years old, I was full of hate. I had enough reasons to hate them. In fact, they gave me all the reasons to hate them and want to take revenge from them. I decided to work for them and for them, and this is how I started working for the Shin Bet.
But how did your mind change about that?
Later on, I was transferred to a prison where other Palestinians and Hamas leaders were torturing their own members. And I was shocked. I understood the Israeli torture against Palestinians and persecution. But what I couldn't understand, why Hamas and Palestinians are torturing and persecuting their own people. Fatah tortured its own people, and Hamas learned the lesson from Fatah to torture their people. Most Palestinian factions tortured their members and killed some of them for the accusation of collaborating with Israel. Now, I started to question, what's the difference between the Israeli torture and the Palestinian torture? Why do I hate Israel because it tortured me, and I don't hate Palestinians because they torture my friends? And they could even torture me. So I had to be somehow honest and think as a human being, not as a Palestinian and as Israelis. And I saw ugly side of Palestinians as I saw ugly side of the Israelis. And to me, torture was torture, and that opened the door for the journey of questioning that took several years after that.
But you were so close to your father. Did you talk to him about that?
Of course, I talked to him about this, and I knew that he disagreed. In fact, he was the one who stopped the torture in prison when he was transferred to that prison. My father is a very forgiving person, as many Palestinian people, that they are wonderful people. And they are victims of some of the bad ideologies and religion. Now, those people, like my father, they tried to help the situation. Even they never killed a Jew. Maybe they justified killing a Jew somehow because they understand this is how we resist ourselves. But they're not terrorists in the nature. They are not. If you put my father with other Jew in the same room, I'm sure that my father is not going to kill that person because he cannot kill a human being. But to him, this is justified when he sees angry young men going and killing Jews, because he would say, okay, this is because of the Israeli aggression. And I say, as a human being, as human beings, we need to get down of this horse of pride and ideologies and politics and think as pure human beings. Because in this case, humans are fuel for this endless cycle of violence.
The Shin Bet helped you to pay for your university studies, and they let you for 4 years to be like a side. You weren't working for them, really, until the second Intifada. The second Intifada is when you started to work as a spy for them. And you say that at the day of decision, there was a day when you decided to really start doing this. What was in your mind in that day?
After I was released from prison, the Shin Bet invited me for a meeting, and I went for the meeting. As I told you, the original plan was to fool them. Now I went to the meeting, and in the meeting they were very friendly, and we discussed what happened in prison, the torture that was going on there, to discover that my people, Palestinians who were killed or tortured, my friends, they were victims. They didn't have a clue or anything of a relationship with the Shin Bet, the Israeli intelligence. They were innocent people.
They were not collaborators.
They weren't collaborators with Israel. And I started even to question more. I already had a problem with the torture in prison, and now I had a problem to know the truth. If what the Shin Bet was telling me in the first meeting, that all the torture that took place in prison was baseless, and those people were victims, this meant to me a big disaster. Those people I trusted, and those people that we are fighting together, and I'm committing my life to them and to their organization, and I wanted to kill Jews for their glory, and so they take over the Palestinian territories. What if they will become a government one day? Will they also torture everybody the same way they tortured everybody in prison? Now, I'm not saying that this is enough not to trust any Palestinian leadership or Palestinians at all, but I had to judge everything regarding to a pure human morality at that time. And I became very curious. I wanted to learn more. And unfortunately, that I was learning this from my enemies, who I wanted to kill, not from my people. My people weren't honest. Even my father wasn't honest enough. Maybe he was blinded totally to see the truth. And I had to go through this risky journey of hanging out with my enemies that I wanted to kill and have them as friends. And later on, we really became friends because I saw a big amount of honesty and responsibility in their behaviors. And that, I was fascinated about that, and I respected that. So later on, we became friends. Of course, they took care of my study university, but that wasn't the main motive to me as a person.
What was the main motive when the second Intifada began and you actually began to work as a spy?
It's a mixture. The first motive was taking revenge. That was the original motive. Later on, it was the motive of knowing the truth. What's the reality of this conflict? Why people are killing each other? Why was I tortured? Why was witnessing for all this blood? Who's really responsible for that? Mm-hmm. It was the journey and the motivation of discovering the truth. And later on, while I was confused, because simply, as I told you, I started to want to take revenge, and later on we became friends. So when I start to look at myself in the mirror, I say, what in the world I am doing?